the U.S. botched Iraq. They kind of contributed to the botching of Syria. They messed up Libya. That wasn't totally the U.S. They did mess. The French kind of led that disaster. They just lost interest and allowed it to flounder and fail. And it is a failure.
Okay.
They screwed up Afghanistan, billions of dollars, perhaps even trillions of dollars lost for the sake of putting the country back in the hands of the Taliban. They failed in Vietnam. They failed in so many wars. Even Korea was a draw. So what makes you think that this U.S. military intervention is going to be any different? So the U.S. could have played it soft. They could have done it in a relaxed way. They could have invited countries to partake in the attempt to put pressure on Iran. They could have gently put out feelers to see if any countries were interested. They could have perhaps sent a message of solidarity toward the world and basically given it a chance to partake in the maximum economic pressure, Operation D-Day or D-Day economic sanctions against Iran. And that could have maybe worked a little bit better, and I'm sure that's what the Iranians were worried about. But I think the Iranians have nothing to worry about because Scott Bessent came out to the press conference, and in his press conference, he gave a speech that was so diluted, so full of threats and bluster, so with us or against us, a kind of attitude that the world has had enough of, and that no one is going to participate in this.
It is now a time for world leaders to make a decision between prosperity and isolation, peace and terror, America and Iran. The campaign we begin today will gather force with every day that follows, and it will not end until this regime stands alone.
I predict that no country in the world is going to openly embrace the U.S. policy, except perhaps a few outliers like Argentina or Micronesia, and definitely Israel. At least publicly, they'll embrace it. Really, they'll want to go back to war. They want to go back to bombing the hell out of Iran. And so I think that plus the unhinged opinion piece that Scott Bessent wrote for the Financial Times the night before, introducing this crazy, nonsensical attempt to put pressure on Iran and threaten any country that has economic relations with Iran, as if many countries that the U.S. has leverage over have economic relations with Iran, only like, I guess, neighboring countries like Iraq and Turkey, but like especially China, Russia, Armenia. These are the countries that the Iranians have good trade relations with. The United Arab Emirates, they might get some concessions from. But in any case, I've been talking about these sanctions. They're getting a little bit boring. Honestly, I've done this is the third episode I'm forced to do something on sanctions in a row. And I know I'm like boring the shit out of people with this sanctions stuff. Oh, it's so annoying. But what's so annoying about it is that there's no ability to gauge whether the Trump administration is actually serious, whether they're going to really start threatening like Germany. If you keep selling optical equipment that is for making lenses for eyeglasses to Iran, if you keep doing that because it could potentially be used for laser research and other applications, other potential military applications, if you keep doing that, if you keep selling them, we're going to put sanctions on you, Germany. Is the U.S. really going to do that? I mean, I guess it would be really unhinged if they did. And as for China, do you know what it would look like for China right now to accede to the U.S. demands and buckle to this pressure? I mean, maybe if Iran had attacked the U.S. and the world was trying to come to terms with that and trying to punish Iran for attacking one of its neighbors, maybe if we were talking about like Iraq invading Kuwait in 1991 or like Russia attacking Ukraine in 2022, maybe you could get a global coalition for something like that. But we're talking about the aggressor, the country that bombed a school on day one of the war and killed 120 school children, mostly girls, killed a bunch of teachers and parents trying to rush to pick up their kids from school. You're talking about a country whose partner, Israel, essentially dropped a dirty bomb on Tehran by blowing up the refineries and giving thousands of people, maybe tens of thousands of people, respiratory problems for years, decades to come. You're talking about that coalition of sick people, this Epstein class linked clique of billionaires and oligarchs and sick, depraved Fox TV hosts like Pete Hegseth trying to put pressure on China and other countries around the world not to do business with Iran. I mean, I bet like whatever China says, and China's very diplomatic, so they're not going to come out and say what they really think. And with Chinese diplomatic statements, it's almost like worthless to even try to parse them and try to do a little bit of Kremlinology and trying to figure out what they mean, because they usually mean nothing, and that's basically what they intend. But I wonder if inside Beijing, the leaders of China are watching Scott Bessent make these threats and are just like, fuck you. This is our century, and you can't bully us around. This is blatant bullying, saying who you can and can't do business with. India, perhaps the same thing. They're a little bit more complicated because they have good relations with Israel, and they have really good relations with the U.S. and this White House. But like other countries around the region, they're in a tough situation. I know Turkey, where I'm broadcasting from, where I'm podcasting from, Istanbul, for the first time back in my seat here, the hot seat in Istanbul, after 7 weeks of being on the road. I think that they're going to have the same attitude. Like, who the hell are you to tell us who we can do business with? Especially since you're the one who created all these problems and all these issues for us to deal with right now, with the Strait of Hormuz, with the inflation crisis that you've triggered, with the security and diplomatic crisis that you've escalated, and now with Israel threatening Turkey, threatening the Iraqi militias, threatening everyone. What the hell? Who is going to abide by this? I mean, sovereignty is an issue. Pride in your country is an issue. And buckling to the United States, not a nice Obama coming and requesting kindly that you participate in some cause, as the United States encouraged countries to partake in the sanctions against Iran in the run-up to the JCPOA. Not someone like Obama, but this big, fat, slobbering freak and his emotional security girlfriend, Natalie Harp, this harpy, this groupie that he's like clinging to for emotional support and who knows what else. This creep, this freak is coming around just demanding that you do what he wants. I don't think many countries are going to go for it. We'll see. Pro tip, in this day and age, if you're a somewhat fading international power, you have to put on your diplomatic airs at least. You can't be like, you're either with us or against us. That was so 25 years ago. And I don't think it's just going to sell at this point in any part of the world right now. And so I think that attitude, that kind of self-righteous attitude, like, oh, we're going to punish countries to do any business with Iran. I don't think anyone's going to go for that, especially not with this approach. I'm Borzou Deragahi. This is my podcast. It's called Badlands, and you can subscribe at borzou.substack.com. I'm also available on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify and on YouTube. This episode will feature the part 2 of my interview with Nadim Shehadi. Now, if you recall from part 1, this is not someone I agree with on a lot of issues. He is a Lebanese scholar, and he is part of and connected to an organization that I think does pretty good work. It's called the Umam Center for Human Rights and Documentation in Human Rights. And they're trying to find and identify and figure out what happened to the missing people of Lebanon during its various civil conflicts. There's so many families in Lebanon that are still missing their loved ones from the civil war time. No one knows what happened to them, whether they're buried in a ditch somewhere in Lebanon or Syria. A lot of the people were disappeared during the Syrian. It's one effort at reconciliation and one of the few efforts that is addressing the various conflicts in Lebanon that are often swept under the rug, as is often the case in these post-conflict situations. But other than that, I kind of consider him somewhat linked to the Neocon shill crowd. He believes in the U.S.-led war against Iran. He thinks that the U.S. and the UAE and all these other countries can positively reshape the region. I don't see any evidence of that. I mean, they've had their chance, right? I mean, like, they've done how many interventions in the region at this point? You know, have any of them turned out decently? Oh, but like this one in Iran is going to turn out well. It's going to make the region better. And what is their role model? Like the United Arab Emirates? I mean, is that really a role model? A, vicious oligarchic surveillance state? Is that really the vision for the future that people have? Financed by oil? What would happen with this country? What would that country be? What would the United Arab Emirates that people consider a kind of model for the region? What would it be without oil? Fucking North Korea, I think. I mean, what would it be? What would it turn into? Would it really be anything other than oil money and the riches of oil money and the wealth that oil money has bought and the adjutants and little expats in that country are all serving ultimately the oil wealth in that country. So I don't see it as any model for anything, but Nadim does. So take a listen and let me know what you think. I think I'm going to put this episode also behind the paywall, and maybe in a couple weeks or a month or so, I'm going to remove the paywall. So watch for it on YouTube. But anyway, if you can use your single pass to watch the whole interview. Gets a little bit testy at some point when I confront him about whether there's any success in his track record of his advocacy. Is there any success story that he can point to where the U.S. successfully reshaped a country or a region? And if you can use your free pass to watch the interview, or you can just, hey, like I said, if you could subscribe, that would be awesome. I would really appreciate it. And now after this little message, the interview with Nadim. And hi, I'm Borzu Deragahi, host of the Badlands podcast and writer of the Badlands newsletter. You can find me on Spotify. You can find me on YouTube. You can find me on Apple Podcasts. You can also find me on Substack. That's where I'm usually at Borzou, borzou.substack.com. Now, I'm trying to get people to upgrade their subscriptions and get paid subscriptions. I have enough ethics that I wouldn't put my lovely teenage daughter in this video in a bid to encourage people to upgrade, to show what a nice person I am and how I'm deserving and I need a little bit of extra cash to help take care of my life and keep doing this work. But I am shameless enough to show you my daughter's cute puppy, lovely puppy, Bella. Hey, Bella. Hey, Bella. Good doggy. This is such a good dog. Such an amazing puppy. She's super, super sweet, super nice. I don't know what this has to do with geopolitics, but I know that she's a super lovely puppy. And if I could get a little bit of cash to help pay for her treats and her training. Hey, puppy. Good puppy. I love puppies. And if you love puppies too, maybe you should subscribe to Badlands. Get a paid subscription as a gift for anyone in your life who might be interested. Thank you so much. Here's that interview with Nadim.
I think one of the if you want, the dividing line in the region is between an Iranian camp and a Gulf countries camp. The Gulf states want to create a sort of peaceful, prosperous, not necessarily fully democratic, but allied to the West environment with trade, with whatever. Yeah. Iran, the IRGC, I still cannot say Iran. Iran wants to destroy American presence, take over the region, destroy Israel, then go on and I don't know what they will do after they succeed. They won't, but that's so these are the two agendas. And we in Lebanon, if you want, there's a minority of people who maybe follow the Iranian agenda and who succeed in hijacking the whole state. I mean, when you trigger a war by throwing rockets on Israel, it's not, you can't say these are teeny weeny inoffensive rockets. They didn't do any harm.
Well, no one's defending that.
If you are an Israeli state, the inheritor of Holocaust survivors, a couple of weeks after a brutal attack like October 7.
Couple of years.
No, October 7 I'm talking.
Okay, but
October
you were saying
7.
a couple weeks after. Okay, I see what you're saying.
No, even less. I mean, what happened was that
you're talking
Sayyid
about
Hassan,
24. Yeah.
No, yeah, Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah announced joining the Gaza war on the 8th of October. But in fact, they physically joined a few weeks later. I don't know the exact, but it was very small.
23. I was talking 26.
23. No, 26. It's a continuation.
Yeah.
It's not separate wars. It's a continuation of a regional war led by Iran and its allies.
Okay.
Against us and against the Israelis and the Americans and yeah. And we are the fodder. We are the sacrificial.
Well, I mean, to be fair, plenty of Iranians have died, and plenty of people in the IRGC and other branches of the army, for example, went and fought alongside Shia militias
No,
in Syria. Not that I'm crediting that,
yeah.
not that I support that, but I don't think that that is totally and entirely accurate to say that they're willing to fight Israel to the last drop of Arab
Less,
blood. I know that that's
less,
popular to say,
yeah, but
but
less
I would just say
Iranian,
this. I would just
less
say this.
Iranians. Can I just say this? Less Iranians died in this war than the regime killed in